They ask me who I am. For the culture. Yeah. They ask me who I am. I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from. I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. When I say Israelite, they say you Jewish. Look, don't be foolish. Come get a dose of this mental renewing. See how we brew it, it's just different. Like, for instance, first thing to know, brother, it's a culture, no religion. Talking the bloodline, they say we Jacob children. And yeah, that's a factor, but what really matter, how we living? Given that we gotta get Beseda, that mean in order. For that we got that Torah, some brothers we got Basora. Of course, if some don't believe, but that don't matter today. I ain't tryna throw no shade, as long as we all stay in the way. That 613, we coolin' like palm trees. A couple of that, yeah, ain't no fam, know what I mean. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. He said that we the light, got no choice but to shine. By the sweat of your brow, now you see why we grind. How we do, and we move to keep that ruach in our midst. When we eat, I got a list. Wanna build, break out them scripts. We don't hate and we don't diss. We ain't worried about another. He called us his firstborn. You can call us big brother. Look deeper and you'll discover. In your movies and shows, truth been exposed. What you know about those captured and sold. The Igbo and the Ashanti. Check out your history, never lost. Ain't gotta find me. Right where we meant to be, rebellion. Led to expulsion, repentance, fix that. Y'all gotta get back. I can call them big facts. They ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite. They ask me where I'm from, I told them you can pick a side. We worldwide, I'm an Israelite. Whether through scripts or history, no, I can show you. In the army of Yahuwah's, oh boy, I'm a soldier. Yeah, they ask me who I am, I told them I'm an Israelite. That's right, I'm an Israelite.
Hey, we ain't saying this our salvation or nothing, but the Most High just put his name on it, so we represent. All praise. Shalom.
Conscious network. Well, if it's not y'all conscious, it's not acceptable. We've been missing you all, you know. ראשית, אני רוצה לתת כבוד ושבח על יהוה אלוהי אברהם, יצחק ויעקב. First, we want to give honor and praise to He who causes to be or exist, the power of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Those that's tuning in, I see you. Make sure you subscribe if you're on YouTube. Make sure you share. Make sure you like. If you are on Facebook, make sure you share it now. It's going to be some good topics today, and we have the panel. We have Chief Prince Zabulan. I Coach Sharon. And I don't. Maleka Shua. Am I saying it wrong, man? Because look, I got to say it right, man. I love it. Go ahead.
Melakishua.
Hey, it's very unique. You remind me, I've never heard it. It's kind of like with my last name, Yahoo. I put it together myself, right? I don't know if you did that for you, but it's a great name, man. We got our Dawn here, man, and we're gonna have a good show today. How was you all's week before we get started?
Great.
Told, no complaints.
Told.
The Most High has been gracious.
And we're alive and well, right? We're breathing, you know. able to eat. If we have any yellow deem, able to feed them. You know, sometimes we get to a point where we complaining. I know I'm one of those sometimes, and we just got to realize, sit back and look at the positive things, and that's just having life. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started because we started late. Salak Lee, more so me, so not Salak Lanu. But that's neither here nor there. We're gonna get started. All right. Title of this evening is Grab Life by the Horns. Grab Life by the Horns. You will see why it's that way when we read the topics of this evening. But just based off that right there, what do you get from that title, Grab Life by the Horns? I saw that was a saying, a popular saying. I'm like, oh, this probably could fit. Maybe. What's y'all take on that? Akho Sharon, we're gonna do Akho Sharon and then Chief Prince, Nadon, and I'll go last. What's your take on Grab Life by the Horns? Akho? Grab Life by the Horns.
That saying reminds me, when life give you lemons, when life give you lemons. Yeah, that is that saying is kind of similar to that.
Mm. I can see it. Anybody else?
Just gotta make it do what it do.
Yeah, it was for me. Squeeze man up.
Man up. All
Grow
right.
set. Get it done.
He said, "Grow a set." How about you? I don't. What you got? Grab Life by the Horns.
Grab life by the horns. You just got to make it do what it do.
Okay. For me, Grab Life by the Horns. Don't be complacent. Go right into it, because if you don't, them horns gonna puncture you. Might get hurt. So first topic of this evening, we'll go in that order that we just did right now. And that order is, that first topic is, how do you explain to a brother or sister they need to take more effort in life to expect blessings for the Creator? How do you explain to your brother or sister, your akh or akhot, they need to take more effort in life to expect blessings from the Creator? Akhot Sharon.
I know sometimes when dealing with Yisrael, or should I say dealing with certain individuals in Yisrael, according to the individual you're dealing with, and I've been in this predicament myself. We don't like being poured up on our lack thereof. We don't, some of us, I'm gonna say some of us, we don't like being poured up on what we should, what we should be doing, or what we should be doing more of and better. Um, it then starts to become a circle of regurgitation. So I've learned with this particular question, I've learned to kind of like just be and set the example. Um, and don't not exhibit the things that you are preaching to them to do. Don't not like have your affairs not in order, because sometimes we kind of take that and run with it. If a certain person put up another individual when our affairs aren't particularly in order, they feel as though we don't have the right to say anything. I don't know I don't know if y'all believe in that system. When your affairs is not in order, you don't have the right to say nothing about nobody. I don't know if y'all believe in that system or not. Mm-hmm. Also, what I witnessed, you have to know who you are dealing with. You have to know how to say certain things, when to say it. You got to change up your terminology based on that level of cognitive reception. Also, I've learned with this particular question is to, it also helps to pass that message down, have that message vocalized with another messenger. Sometimes a lot of our people, we take heed more to the messenger versus the message. Actually, I've witnessed that a lot of times in Israel.
Facts.
Yeah. So, it's, sometimes it helps to have that message passed down and vocalized from someone else. Once again, I'm gonna put myself into it. I've been an individual where certain individuals, you can't say nothing to me. You have to have another individual say something to me. I don't know why it's like that. However, it's been like that before in my time, with community, with my family, with Torah, all together. And that's
Okay.
that's
Yeah,
pretty much what I have to say about
that's a
that.
human experience issue.
Promise.
Came.
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
certain things, people, I don't know, it's like certain terminologies or certain words may trigger you, certain things, how people said that tone of voice,
right.
that kind of makes a big difference sometimes, where
Yeah,
the message doesn't get across the way you want it to get across. It doesn't get across accurately. The way that you intend on how you say things, the way that you intend the message to come across. It doesn't necessarily be delivered that way based on the individual you're dealing with.
absolutely. That's a tremendous factor.
Okay.
All praises. Let's go ahead, real quick. For those that's tuning in, we appreciate all of you tuning in. Please like, subscribe, and share the platform. We're getting heavy. We're about to get heavy. Chief Prince Evelyn, what you got for this? How do you explain to your brother or sister that they need to take more effort in life to expect blessings from the Creator?
Okay, so sort of in the same vein of what Vera Sharon brought out, as far as you gotta understand the people that you're talking to. One of the primary principles that are back when we were in junior high school, when we remember back in the days we went through public speaking classes. Like, remember that used to be part of school, and part of public speaking is that you have to make an assessment. You have to make an immediate assessment of your audience. Who are you talking to?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in that audience is not the same. Everybody's not good. So you have to be able to understand who you're dealing with, and then you have to tailor a message based on that fact of who you're dealing with. So, for instance, if I'm having a conversation with, let's say, somebody, let's say, I don't know, somebody from, let's say, ISUPK, I know that I don't have to hold my tongue with those type of brothers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because they're conditioned to receive a military-based approach to everything. So if a brother, of mine from ISUPK, if we're talking and he says something that's that's a little inaccurate, I could say, nah, slow down, knock you off. And they can receive it because they're already familiar with that.
It's not easily
say it again.
He's not easily what's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry. Offended.
Like, right.
Yeah. Right. Like a lot of folks are.
Exactly. Because for the past 20, 30 years, he might have been hearing it from General Yohana all day. Yo, you're off. You're off. So after a while, you build up your tolerance, and you don't have that, you don't have a real sissified kind of a feeling to the situation. And that's not that's not a shot at anybody, but it's just that everybody takes things different. Whereas, let's say if you're talking with somebody who, let's say, follows the community in Dimona, the community that used to be under Ben Ami Ben Israel, they come from a more intellectual kind of angle, so you don't have to be all with them. You can just say, "Hey, Shalom, Mike. Listen to the situation." Everybody has their way of going about, of dealing with it. But I think no matter what the situation, the first thing we got to do is do it in private. If you're going to critique your brother, critique them in private, because one thing that we know about social media is that when you critique somebody in public, even if the person that you're critiquing agrees with what you're saying, just as a man or as a woman, they have to now defend themselves because you've exposed them in front of an audience.
Yeah.
And so now their feelings get involved. So I think so, trying to explain to a brother or sister about how to, push forward in their endeavors in life, in order to get the blessings of the Creator, you first have to go to them in private. Make it so that it's you two dealing with the situation. That removes any barriers of ego and all that stuff. That removes it out the way because now it's just us. The next thing, real quick, the second thing is you also got to understand a person's a person. What is their definition of faith? Because a lot of times, when you're trying to make things clear to somebody about how they are to move, how they are to improve themselves, one of the first things that they go into, they try to take the position of, well, and you know what? I'm going to hold off on that point because that's actually covered in the next topic. So I don't want to get ahead of myself. But I just think overall the most important element is to take that person into private, have that conversation man to man, woman to woman, so that there's no ego involved, and you be very clear with them. And one of the things I understand too about speaking with people in private is that they're more likely to concede to your critique. They're more likely to be like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you know what? No doubt. No doubt. You're right about that. I gotta check that. I gotta check my situation.
Okay, that's true.
So for me, again, I know everybody has their particular methodology, but when you're, for me, when I want to make clear to somebody that, hey, listen, I think you need to kind of put more work in on whatever it is that you're doing. You gotta understand your audience, and once you understand the person or the people that you're talking to, the second thing is you bring them into a private council, and then you have that conversation. But never put it public, because if you think they're going to be like, oh, absolutely, yeah, after you don't embarrass me in front of 5,000 friends of mine on Facebook, am I going to concede to what you're saying? And we know how ego goes. They're gonna be like, no. They'll sit there and argue you to the death, but in their mind, they know, yeah, he is right though, but I'm still gonna argue it now because you tried to make me look suspect. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to say that you got to handle people with kind of like with mittens, but just understanding that everybody doesn't take to critique the same way. So you have to really understand the person that you're dealing with before you even bother to offer a critique.
Okay.
So that's my angle from that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, take the floor. I see you coming in. You ready? Go ahead, give it up. Hey, can you introduce yourself to the people that's tuning in too, and let us know who you are, and go ahead and go with the
absolutely. I'm a guest. I'm a guest with the platform team, and I appreciate the opportunity to kind of sit with you guys and discuss. My name is Melakishwa bin Naftali. I am I quote Kathy's husband. So while she's away, for dealing with some family circumstances, I decided that I wouldn't have a problem with kind of stepping in for her and just kind of filling in and taking an opportunity to sit with the discussion. So told Rabbi for the invite and allowing me the opportunity. So
yeah. You already know the question. You already know the question.
Yeah. So absolutely, it's important for us to know the individual that you're having this discussion with, regardless of the fact if it's your brother, your sister, we should always be willing to impart some sort of knowledge and wisdom on each other, help each other out as much as, because sometimes the only help that you can offer a person is just a simple bit of encouragement.
Mm.
And if you look at it from that perspective, then I think you can understand the importance of explaining to your brother, your sister, that sometimes you got to put forth a little more effort. You got to actually do. Sometimes folks get so complacent, and they don't want to really uh, kind of like they lose their zeal, and depending on the circumstances, you might feel a sort of way. But I think we should always be willing to offer the encouragement to a person that's willing to accept it. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in a negative way. But, you know, very important. Like, one of the things that I wanted to touch on was what our coach Sharon said about not being willing to, to share with someone if your affairs aren't in order. And I don't believe that the creator established that as a rule of life, period. You know, I don't think that it's important, but obviously, because of the times that we live in, folks are very unnecessarily emotional at times, and they, let their emotions get the best of them. So it's difficult for a lot of us to accept positive correction, and that's when it's a lot easier to accept when you're the type of person that can accept that positive correction from someone. If your intention is to improve your life, then you should absolutely be willing to take that correction from whomever it might be. Doesn't matter who it is. It could come from a child. They could say something that could spark something in your mind and make you think differently about a specific topic. So I don't think that we should allow ourselves to be held back by not having our affairs in order specific to whatever the discussion is. Because I'm sure that's where it comes from. Like if let, here's a good one. Like, for example, like we've all been in a situation where we feel like we want to critique somebody else's kids.
Yeah.
How their actions and their demeanor, or how they are, when they're out in public. And but you oftentimes forget that folks can also critique your kids as well. So you get somebody that's critiquing your child, and they're like, look, they did such and such, and you need to, you probably need to check them or whatever. And if you get upset and not accept that as somebody trying to help you understand that something might be wrong, or whatever the case is, then if when you push back and not accept that, then that could be to your detriment. But just like both Chief and Ako said about knowing the individuals that you're dealing with. And this is why I love Israel so much, because it's always been based off of personality, especially how I was taught, how I was raised. So like we made it a very specific point to focus very much on the personality differences that we have amongst ourselves, and that also helped me to understand how to deal with my brothers and my sisters, because sometimes they just can't help who they are.
Mm.
You can't force somebody to change who they are, and oftentimes you can tell those personality traits that a person holds, that there's absolutely no way whatsoever that they're going to change. If a person is a consistent liar, they're going to always lie to you. You always have to expect that. If they tell you the truth, that should be surprising to you, but still, you have to always expect the fact that they might not. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to deal with them according to who they are, and sometimes it's difficult for us to be able to do so because we have so much high hopes for folks, but oftentimes like they disappoint. So, you got to deal with people for who they are, and you got to recognize that. But when it comes down to expressing to them the importance of making those necessary steps in their life to improve, you can't expect the creator to bless you if you're not trying to put forth the effort. The Almighty, I don't believe that the Almighty is that type of Almighty where he's just going to give it to you because you seem like a good person. So
gotta put in that work.
Yeah, you got to put in some work. Moshe had to put in some work. If Moshe had to put in some work, we definitely got a lot of work to do.
Pretty much. I just wanted to hit a point that you said. I'm probably not gonna go too hard on the because you all, slayed it, but you said something that I actually was speaking with someone today about, which I coined it from Chief Prince Zebulon, by the way. But you said something about disappointing, and the thing that I said, which is what Chief Prince said, was, a lot of us, some of us, now this is me saying this part, but some of us have a big heart for our people. We want things to happen. We want things to be successful, but there's a remnant of a remnant. I always say that majority of our people, unfortunately, even those that have the desire to want to do, but they're not grabbing life by the horns. So they're not really putting the effort in it to do what they desire to do, what they want to do. And what tends to happen, those that's trying to put stuff in place for them to do it end up being disappointed. And it ends up breaking their heart. What do you say, Chief? Don't you say something like that? Like you mess around getting your heart broken, not being prepared, or like you were saying, not expecting. This is how our people operate. Cat in the background. I see the cat.
Oh yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah. No, and actually that sentiment originally came from an elder of mine in Brooklyn, the late great More Tovia.
Okay.
And it was one of the things that he, not too long before he passed away, in 2007, he sat me down. We were just all having a conversation just about Israel generally, and he was like, he said, hey, listen, man, he was like, young chief, he's like, I respect your zeal, I'm feeling you, whatever, like that. But
this is what he said to me, by the way, y'all. This is what he said to me also, by the way. Go ahead. I just want to let that be known.
He's like, I respect your zeal. He was like, hey, listen, man. He's like, there's nothing wrong with loving your people. It's nothing wrong with wanting the absolute best of your people and see them rise. Kwam Yashala, Kwam Yisrael, all of that good stuff. He said, but do not let this movement cause you to die of a broken heart.
Yeah.
Right.
And, again, when he first said it, as an elder, I respected what he was saying. In the back of my mind, I'm like, man, like, I hear you, but again, that was many, many years ago. That was 2007. As time went on, you begin to realize, no, he's absolutely correct, because there's a lot of us, because we have so much faith in the potential of our people, that we ignore the reality of our people at times. Yeah. Hey. Our idealism sometimes clashes with our pragmatism.
Yeah. Can I add something that because you reminded me of it was an event that I went out. I think we were doing like some community outreach with I coach Sharon's Abba, Adonesh, my teacher, and one day we were out, and this is Like this sticks with me like forever. I'll never forget this event. But we're out there, we're trying to teach, brothers and sisters out in our community. And this one brother, he came, that I approached, and he said to me, he said, "Look, brother, I don't want to know nothing. Don't teach me nothing, because I know I'll be held accountable for what I know. That's the reason why I don't want to know anything." It's some of us that are smart enough to kind of stay away from understanding just because they know that much.
Yeah.
You almost got to salute them for that. Like, you know what?
Yeah. I was disturbed by that as a kid. This is back in the late 90s, and I'm like, I've never heard anybody say anything like that. But and the donation was like, yeah, you just got to get used to it.
Yeah. That's what I saw as well. So like when you go back to this question, with that being said, with everything that has been said by you all and Coach Sharon, how do you explain to your brother or sister they need to take more effort in life to expect blessings from the Creator? I mean, you can explain, but ultimately it's going to be up to them. You can lay it out. You could do the same thing Most High did to us, laid things out, told us what the benefit was from us doing it, all of the above. But ultimately, we still made choices. We still moved in a way that was against us. So it's nothing really we can fully do, but actually what the fourth word says, explain. That's all you can do. And just pray and hope that, this person has the desire for it. So with that being said, go ahead. So luckily, what was you about to say?
Oh, no, I said Cain. That's why my initial comment was to be and set the example, because you can advise or explain all day long, but when people see a certain behavior in you, when they see that you're moving righteously or moving different, or they see that you have a lot of good things going for you, our people, we like to say, "Oh, what you got going on? What you doing? What's up with you? What you got?" So so that's why I say, just be and set the example. However, yes, you can explain and keep advising, and pull your fellow brother and your fellow sister up, but it's like it's a different tune and it's a different look when you be the example.
Now I'm gonna give you a little pushback.
Push me back.
I'm gonna give you a pushback. No, you're right, 100%. So it's not really technically a pushback, because what you're saying is valid and it is true and it's ideal. It should happen. When you think of Moshe, and he was an example, people push back. And I'm sure you probably was an example in your life. All of us probably was being examples of people in our lives, and they still was like, "Man, didn't I just show you? Didn't you see from me? Or aren't you?" And they still. So I'm not saying it for those that's listening to go against what she's saying. She's 100%. But for some reason, it always, in my opinion, goes back to those type of people that will receive from that example that you're setting. They're part of that remnant of a remnant to me, because a lot of people, they go like, "Oh, I see what you're doing. Oh, I see you did that. Cool." I got a friend that's been and Chief Prince Abulan knows this friend I'm talking about. I knew him since I was 17. His name, they call him Aaron the Titan. You know what I'm saying? He on a different path now, but he was a Christian, and he was probably the most perfect Christian I ever met in my life. Like literally, like if you had to say a Christian was perfect, he was perfect. You know what I'm saying? And he been setting examples for everybody that I know, that we both know, but we all chose not to do it because we thought it was boring, or we thought that he was working too much, or he was moving too greatly, or this and that. We just wanted to still do what we did, even though he was showing 19 years old, making six figures, all that stuff, saying, "Oh, y'all could do this too. Y'all better than me." He said to me all the time, because I'm a writer. He's like, "Man, you could go far with your writing." Always told me that. But until I got of a certain age, that's when I started getting where I'm at now. But he was an example, still is now. Now he I ain't gonna put his business out there, but he up there, So I just wanted to put that out there. And like I said, it's not against what she said, because she's 100% true. I mean, right, what she said. But the reality, or part of the reality, I won't say the full reality, but the part of the reality is people still, even if they see the example that you've done, they don't want to put the work in that you've done to obtain that example that they're seeing out of you.
Well, most times, okay, I'll twist it this way. I'll put it in this type of mentality. People want to hop on the bandwagon and support you when you're doing good, when they see you elevating. When you down, you get little to no support. But when you elevating and doing good, people want to hop on that bandwagon. They want to, they want a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
It's like all of a
Without putting in
sudden,
the
it's
work.
like suddenly you have all this support system.
Without putting in the work or supporting you until you got where you was. Now they want to jump on. So they didn't put in the work. No, they supported you while you was putting in the work and wasn't being successful in it until you got successful. Now they want to jump what you just said, and I agree with you, on the bandwagon without putting in that work.
Yeah,
So what y'all
We both agree. We both say the same thing. Go ahead.
So what y'all saying is that they wasn't in the gym shooting with y'all. That's what y'all saying.
They wasn't in the gym shooting with us.
Okay.
That's what it was. But then when they saw you made that, you got that $3 million contract.
Now all of a sudden they want that NBA ring, right?
Right, exactly.
Can I ask something?
That's how our people move. We are a visual people. We are a visual people, and that's the best way to kind of like get people to act right. I'll put in that sense.
To hope that they act right, because I bring it right back to Moshe one more time, and I'm gonna pass it to you, and then we go with the first song.
Okay.
I want our coach to get it in as much as she can before.
Oh no problem.
Okay, so it goes back to Moshe again. Moshe is probably one of the most perfect examples, and I know we got family and friends that could be an example too. But he showed what could happen, what we could do, and they still was going to opposing them.
Right.
Well, go ahead.
Because I just wanted to add real quick, because even with you using Moshe as an example, he was an example from both perspectives. And some of us are those examples that from both perspectives. You can be an example based on a lot of negative things that occur in your life. And if you make the decision to choose to do what's right, then those negatives can be an example for others to know what not to do. Right. And if you're smart, then you also learn from others when they go through those type of situations. Sometimes I've always felt like, even within my own life, because I've gone through a number of things, and I like even share it with our coach Sharon, because we're family. She's my kid's aunt. So even throughout our discussions, I've mentioned to her that how I sometimes feel like I'm an example for things that I've experienced that you can kind of like deem as negative, right?
Yes, sir.
You've gone through some rough times. You experienced this, and not a whole lot of people have gone through that. But yet, I try to be that example for how you can, move away from that. And at the same time, like she said, you have to be an example for people for how to move forward positively as well. So I also find myself trying to be an example for my brothers and sisters, and especially, most importantly, my kids, for them to know and understand, like, you can move down this path and you can do what's right by the Most High, and you can be happy and satisfied, or you can be great, along this path, but it's all about the decisions that you make. So
hallelujah. Say that fire, y'all. Say that fire for the next ones. We're gonna go ahead and play the first song. But before that, those that's tuning in, if you have not yet, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, Y'all Conscious Radio. You can put it in the search box. If you're not on YouTube right now, just make sure you go back and do that. Like, share, let people know about what we're talking about. The topics get heavier, and we bring these things to kind of help point us in a good direction towards the Most High Yah, and to help families. That's one of the most important things that we press to do here: families, community, and the nation. All right, first song of this evening is I'm playing some John Boy called Cloud View featuring Woody. Y'all remember Woody from what was the name of the group? What
Drew Hill.
Drew Hill. There you go.
Oh, Baltimore's own. He from around the way.
You see, I had to play it, man, because you on here, y'all on here. So here we go.
People making up things that's not out there to try to wipe you away. I'd rather hold control or delete before I touch space. This word is sweet at first. I'm getting the aftertaste. It's bitter inside my stomach. I found ways to numb it. Your signs are like the clouds. A storm, me and you coming, they run. Every time I say this, every time you let me know you're around. Even when it gets hard on this ground, it's hard to keep my face in front. 'Cause I know you're looking down. 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 People don't know your ways, but I know you care. Hard to see you through this cloudy mist, but I know you did. Romans 9:18 said you will have mercy on whom you will. Romans 3:23 mean you very fair. All these people with no spirit get irate. 'Cause I'm able to see the truth with this blind faith. You had a beautiful high depth, any challenge I would accept would compare you like to the sun. It's not bright enough to connect and suspect. Every time I say this, every time you let me know you're around. Even when it gets hard on this ground, it's hard to keep my face in front. 'Cause I know you're looking down. 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 He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. 1,000 shall fall at thy side, and 10,000 at thy right hand. It shall not come nigh thee. Only with thine eyes shalt thou behold and see the reward of the wicked.
That's so fat.
Yeah. All right, that was John Boy featuring Woody from Drew Hill. I think he in the truth and stuff now. So next topic, let's keep it moving. We did start a little later, so we gonna get it cracking.
Oh, real quick, the brother Woody, he's been in this walk since like 2008.
Yeah, for a minute.
Yeah, because he actually did. Because I think I remember I told you he did that song by this brother. He was doing truth music during the time that I was doing it. Brother named Amar the Nazarene out of Chicago, and they had a song about like good 13 years ago, and that's when I found. I was like, oh, that's the dude from Drew Hill, and yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, he pushed it in the Torah, so I'm like, that's a blessing.
Okay. Wanted to go ahead and jump in with another point you had with the last topic. I don't. You're muted.
Can't. Toda. Akko Sharon had made a point on the last topic real quick that I thought was very important. And she said that sometimes you need to pass the message along through someone else. And it's interesting that she said that because, you know, her Ish, who's a good friend of mine, and a lot of the brothers that that I've met in my youth, we came, we made an agreement when we were younger, and we said that for our kids, like sometimes like we recognize how difficult it is for kids to take correction from their parents. So we would do a trade off, and we agreed that sometimes when we would have those difficult discussions that we need to have with our kids, then we would ask each other to do it because our children respected the other. You know what I mean?
Interesting.
So it made it easier sometimes for us to pass these messages along to our kids because they respected their uncle or they respected, the brother, and that was how we were able to kind of reel them in different situations. So sometimes it's very important that you just pass it along to someone else. Like, look, they have a high respect for you. I'd appreciate it if you can communicate this message to this person because I think it'll be helpful for them. And that's something always to consider. They don't necessarily have to come from you, but it can come from someone else that the
Right.
individual respects, that they'll accept it from. And sometimes, it's somebody out that they don't have that relationship with. That they'll take that correction from a lot easier than they would if it was somebody that knows their dirt.
That's good point from our coach Sharon, and you added on to it. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Definitely true.
Torah.
All right. Let's go ahead and go to the next one. Next topic. We're gonna, of course, let our coach Sharon lead us off, and the topic is: how do you feel about the statement, "Almighty know my heart"? No, Christians might say, "God know my heart." Is it an excuse for laziness? How do you feel about the statement, "Almighty knows my heart"? Is it an excuse for laziness? What you got for us?
Well. This is another boat I've been in. I'm gonna read Jeremiah 17 verse 9 really quick.
Bringing it out.
The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately. Sleeker, can y'all hear me?
Okay.
The heart is deceitful above all things and wicked. Who can know it? I, the Most High Yah, search the heart, try the veins, even to give every man according to his ways and according to the fruit of his doing. So I've been in this boat before. I'm gonna tell you about a time when I was about 17. I'll say 17, 18. I went to a cookout with a long friend that I grew up with. She's a friend of the family. She know my background as far as being in Torah. She know my album, my siblings, my peers around me, and everything like that. So at this cookout, of course, it was a whole bunch of unclean food, and I'm like, all right, stay strong, don't get influenced. You got other things here to eat, right? But me, little old me, I'm testing my boundaries. I say, you know what? God know my heart, and of course, I'm using God as a common terminology.
Okay.
That we are.
Okay.
Um,
Got other viewers and listeners that might not be.
hey. I say, you know what? God know my heart. I'll be all right. So, of course, I partake in, some unclean food, some strips there, and I still talk about it to this day, honestly. And
Ew.
look. If I have to be vulnerable and transparent, that was the best shrimp I ever had in my life. When I tasted that, I said, "Woo-wee! Why can't we eat this again?"
Oh,
But,
man.
however, yeah, I was like, you know what? I be all right. The Most High know my heart. God know my heart, man. I be all right. But I use that as an excuse to be incompetent.
Right.
That was definitely an excuse. I feel like the saying "God knows my heart." I feel like that saying existed based off of to excuse certain behavior, to excuse people, to excuse incompetence. That's what I believe. I feel like that whole saying existed in the whole saying exists based off just to be excusable for certain things that you know you're not supposed to do. So the whole time she like, oh, Sharon, you gonna get in trouble because once again, she know my family, she know the seriousness and the importance of me being raised in law, and I just feel like it's definitely an excuse. I do have a question.
Did she tell on you?
She didn't tell on me. No, she didn't tell on me. But
She
she did
just
get
guilty then.
she did dig into me. She did hold me accountable. I can't say that. She did hold me accountable. She didn't invite me to any more of her events for a while.
I hear that.
Yeah, she did hold me accountable, absolutely. But I do have a question. I feel like the only way this saying is excusable or justified is during scenarios or during situations where people display erratic behavior. You're not necessarily reacting in sin. You're not necessarily sinning, but you just have a pattern of erratic behavior. For an example, I'll say, a person could be happy and kind as we know it 1 minute, and the next minute they sad and angry. You can know a person who's been peaceful and a person who's a loving person of everyone, and then the next minute this same person out here fussing and out here just being real isolated to themselves. I feel like erratic behavior can kind of like you can kind of tweak that to be like, you know what, the Most High know my heart. I've reacted this way. I'm not necessarily in sin. I just had a moment of weakness. The Most High knows my heart. But I don't know what y'all say.
I'll comment on it real quick. Let me comment. It depends on what you're talking about. It depends on the subject. If it's just like a moment to where like you all peaceful and all that day, you kind of just the whole day people just it's just been really rough and things like that, and then you just kind of have a moment to where you snap. Well, here's my answer. I'm gonna give you a better answer. Jeremiah to me is a perfect example. Yemiyahu. Perfect example. I just did a lesson on this last week, but I'm not gonna go deep into it. It's taught that he kind of turned his back on the Most High and stuff. This is my take on it. You all correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe it was the way that it's being taught. I believe it was, unless somebody could show me differently, and I'm cool with correction. I think it's just a moment. Now, if you're saying when you say erratic, are you saying it like you have a moment to where you kind of just shift to what you're not normally used to going through or doing, or your personality? Are you saying it that way, or are you talking about literally breaking a law that you
No,
don't know?
no, erratic behavior is just like a pattern of being unpredictable in your ways. More so, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, it sounds like you just had a moment.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying now. But if you say it's a pattern of that, now that's a different subject too. I think if it's a pattern of you being that way, that's different, in my opinion. This is my opinion, from just having a moment of consistency of you being not that way for days and weeks and months, but then you just boom, you know what? Just explode, having a moment. So, but if it's a pattern of you doing it all the time, I don't know what to call that. Especially if it's not you breaking a law. I would say I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna pass the mic.
The pattern can be something between every 3 months. This person displayed
Oh,
erratic
that ain't
behavior,
a pattern to me.
or every time this person or a particular person come around in the same environment, this person reacts a certain way. A pattern
Yeah.
can kind of be just like how they say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. A pattern can kind of just be, it can kind of go either way. It doesn't have the duration of time of this pattern. It doesn't have to be all the time.
I
It
think
could be sporadic
the
sometimes.
example you just gave me though, if it like I said, if it's something that just pop. Now this is my answer and I'm done because you asked. I'm gonna let everybody else answer the question. If it's something that just happens, I would say you just had a moment. But if it's a pattern, like the example you said, you go to this place, you keep going to this place every month, then I would say switch up that pattern. Stop going to that place if it's allowing you to, or if it's causing you to do that. That would be my answer, for the audience that's listening to the question that was made. And I pass the mic to one of the
Yeah,
Achim.
that kind of no longer becomes a pattern. It just becomes something that you do.
Mm-hmm.
But what happens when something that you do is not necessarily, you're not necessarily in sin? And the person on the other spectrum is like, yeah, this is something that I do. This is, it's a part of my character. I'm not sinning, but the Most High knows my heart in that type
Yeah.
of manner.
Eventually, so you ride in the fence, and eventually you're gonna have a raw behind.
Mm. Yeah, if it's not again, if it's we look at, and Chief, I'm passing to you after this. See, we look at sin as the law, right? That's cool, and it is. If you break the law, you sinning. But if your character is causing you to be a certain type of way towards your brother or sister, and it's not technically breaking a law per se, depending on like the strong laws, but that's still you. How we treat someone or how we react to someone is still, it's like a moral law. And this is my own doctrine, I guess, but but we tend to do that. We tend to go to what I ain't breaking the law, so I can. You can't tell me nothing about this. Well, I mean, can you? Because law, you can make a law that's not in a law. Your parents make laws when they have children, tell you to do this, tell you to do that, and that's not in the Torah law, but it's still Torah. It's instruction. So we have certain instructions that we was taught by our parents or by leaders or by
Well,
our
that is
elders.
that is law technically.
Yeah, that's
Obeying the laws of your parents.
okay. So I'm with you. So I'm saying, like, you got Torah law. I separate those, like it's Torah law, like the national law. But then you have, like you just said, instructions is given from the elder or the parents. That's a law. That's Torah. And then one of the things they teach us is how to treat our fellow brother and sister, how to react if we in a place where we snapping or whatever. I'm not saying that's the case. Get some space, go away. Somebody come at you and say, well, you could have did better. Well, I ain't go against the law, but you kind of did. The instruction that was given to you on how to deal with certain situations. But I'm gonna pass it. Chief Prince, I'm over talking. Go ahead if you got an answer for that question.
Oh no, my response to that was pretty much going to go into the subject anyway, and that is that when we hear that term, God knows my heart. I've heard that a lot from people
All my life.
and but right, and it's like, but the problem though is that when we hear people say that, we tend to go to one extreme with it. We'll say, oh yeah, they just using it as an excuse. And in a lot of cases, yeah, it is an excuse. They are using the excuse. But think about the other people, because everybody doesn't fall under that category. Think about the people who say that when they, let's say, whether we're talking about transgressing the law, whatever. What about the people who have an inability to do certain things? Their mind wants to do it, but they just like for instance, like drug addicts. Their mind is telling them, yo, I want to get off of this. I don't like doing this. I don't like shooting this stuff up into my arm. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like in their mind, they know this. Their body is telling them something different. Not to sound like R. Kelly, but
yeah,
that's a bad one.
I didn't even think about it till you said something.
My mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yeah. But we don't say, but in those type of situations, when a person says, "Hey, God knows my heart," that's not a situation of laziness. That's a situation of you actually feel sorrow for this person because they're clearly at war with themselves. Drug addicts, they're at war with themselves, and unfortunately I've seen enough of them in my life and people who I know, and it's a horrible thing because they know
what your addiction is.
Right. It's like they but they know that they don't want to do it. But on the other hand, they find themselves out on the corner looking for something. So when they say, hey, God knows my heart, that's a little bit different now. And then, I mean, and the examples, and again, I'm not, by no means am I trying to excuse the people who are lazy, because there's just some people who are just wicked as hell, and they're just trying to use God, you know what I'm saying, as a way to circumvent that responsibility. But in those situations, when people say that, my response normally is, well, you're right. God does know your heart. Do you know your heart? Of course, God knows your heart. But if your intentions are good, then you have nothing to worry about. But if your intentions are evil, so it's like when you hear people say, "Oh, only God can judge me." Not true. Man can judge you and is going to judge you right now. So no, I agree that there are people who use it as an excuse. They use it as an excuse so that they can kind of not only slide off without any accountability, but also lay the bedrock for further transgressions, like Sharon and everybody said, setting up that pattern, and we know what patterns are. Patterns is nothing but, that's what they call religion. When you do something over and over and over to the point where it's robotic in its movement, you are now religious. You're doing it religiously. Therefore, you shouldn't even say, "Oh, well, God, no." Just say, "Listen, I'm doing me," because this is your way of life now.
Yeah,
it's your way of life. And let's just be honest and just say, "Hey, it's just what I'm doing." You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like a person who commits adultery or whatever the case. If it happened one time, you can be like, okay, maybe but if you just habitually, you just out there just doing, it's like, don't even call upon the Most High's name. You're just evil as hell.
If you're about to have Israel stone the mess out of y'all conscious network, talking about committing adultery. Well, that was first time. Okay, I know there's
no, right.
Israel about to be like, wait, what is that? That's a chief prince.
But this is
the conversation going. Keep the conversation
right. Yeah. But this is what people, this is what people, how they see it. This is what. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna throw people under the bus, but there's people who see like, no, it was just so, and you hear it even in not even in the Israelite community, just the general African American community. Person be like, "Oh, it only happened one time." It just happened. Whatever. It's like, okay, but if you're habitually doing it, if this is what you do, whatever, it's like now it's not even. Listen, it's not. This is just who you are. Like going back to what the brother said earlier, he was like, this is just who you are. If you're a liar, well.
Right. Why should you expect anything different?
Right. And so you have to deal with them as such. So, so I mean, I do think that there are people who use that term, God, the Almighty knows my heart. And I've seen it, people in the community, and not even about issues like we're talking about now, but just they use it as a reason to not make moves in building the very kingdom that they claim they're waiting for.
Yeah.
So think about it. Let's say you're on a corner, and you're supposed to be meeting up with a brother. And he's like, "Hey, listen, I know you're waiting on me. I'm on my way. It'll probably take it's probably going to take another hour or two, or whatever." What do you do in that 2 hours? Do you just look around or say, "Well, all right, well, let me just go ahead. There's some things I got to take care of. Let me go handle this. Let me go do this, whatever, because I got 2 hours to burn." So you do other things. You go handle other business until that person meets up with you. It's the same thing with the Creator. We do the same. We're supposed to do the very same thing until the kingdom, whatever version of the kingdom that we're waiting for. In the meantime, there are things that are to be done. Now, as Hebrews who come from the Tanakh standpoint, from a Torah-based standpoint, we know that we are co-builders of the kingdom. The Most High implants the power within us and requires us to build the very thing on earth that we're talking about in heaven. We're required to do these things here, right now, right this moment. That's how we wait on Yah. We wait on Yah to do what Yah does, but He's waiting on us to do what we do. So knowing Most High, knowing our heart is not a that's not a sufficient that's not an efficient or sufficient anecdote for us to just be like, okay, I'm just going to sit around and just wait. Like, you're waiting, but Most High's waiting on you. So now what? What we doing?
You know, it's interesting. Our coach Ron brought out the scripture, and I think we should really look at that scripture when it says it knows your heart, and then it started pointing out the characteristics of that heart. And if the Most High knows the heart, and when you start looking at the whole Tanakh, the whole Torah, or just Tanakh, you know, I just say Tanakh because it embodies everything. That's why He put those things in place, because He knew our heart. So it's like a parent puts these things in place because the parent knows what our desires end up being if we're just left to do whatever the heck we want to, because all the temptation that's out there. Structure is needed. That's why Torah was in place, and that's why I believe Yirmiyahu was used to say those words and what our coach Sharon brought out. You passed the mic. I don't. Did you already speak already? I don't think you did, right?
Low, not yet. Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll try to be brief, but absolutely, like she said, and she brought out that that reference that the Almighty does know our hearts, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what should make you afraid. If you're seriously, that should make you afraid, because the Almighty does know your heart.
Mm.
The question is, like you, I think you mentioned earlier, do you know your heart?
Mm-hmm.
You know, do you honestly recognize what you're capable of? You know, what you know, the decisions that we make for ourselves. You know, how we consistently try to convince ourselves, you know, that we're, you know, of the opposite. We convince ourselves that it's okay for us to do wrong, or we convince ourselves that it's okay to make bad decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Like we have to consistently be better. And I'm not saying that, you know, I know we're gonna make mistakes. I make mistakes. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
make bad decisions. You know, I make bad choices at times, but you know, I have to recognize that it's my own fault. And if I don't, even, you know, kind of going back to the first question, if I don't receive those blessings from the Creator, then I should automatically recognize the reason why is because of those decisions that I've made. Kind of like, you know, drawing us into, you know, this statement.
Can I push back a little bit on that last part you just said?
Okay.
Not saying it's wrong, but I want to add to it. Sometimes it's not something you did. Like some people don't believe. Some people believe in the book of Eob, and some people don't. But I like the just the example of Eob. I'm actually supposed to be teaching on it this Shabbat, but it's not. It's not about what we're talking about now, though. What we're talking about now, the addition that I'm adding to what you said is sometimes you probably didn't do nothing.
That's
It can
true.
just be the Most High. Just this is what needs to happen right now to either strengthen
Right.
you,
Right.
bring another perspective. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what decision are you going to make? You know,
Right.
what's going to be your choice?
Okay.
Because that's ultimately going to carry you into that next phase of your life that the Creator is trying to bring you into.
Mm.
Like, I don't necessarily like the idea of harping on that ideal that the Almighty knows my heart, and use that as an
Right.
excuse for why I will just make bad decisions. You know, I know my heart. That's why I made that bad decision. And
Right.
we just need to be honest with ourselves that that's really what all it is. Like, we can't accept the Almighty to give us a pass because we made a bad choice, but we can always absolutely guarantee that the Most High is going to deal with us accordingly. You know, when when I pray, I thank the Almighty for the curses because I deserve it. Obviously, you know, if the Almighty sees it necessary for me to be punished, it's because I've done something to be deserving of that punishment, and I can't be nothing but thankful to the Creator for dealing with me that way, because obviously that means, well, that tells me that He cares. If He didn't do anything, if I didn't get punished for my bad decisions, I should start worrying. I should definitely have a concern. You know, like, why shouldn't you, as a parent,
Right, correct.
punish your children? You correct them when they make mistakes, when they do wrong. If you no longer punish your children when they make mistakes or do wrong, then it means you just really don't care anymore, right?
Mm-hmm. Just letting
What,
them do it willy nilly.
and
Right.
what do we call earthly parents who do that? They say those are horrible parents.
That's
Right.
true.
Right.
But
We can't attribute that same characteristic to the Creator. All we can do is recognize the fact that when we do go through those situations, it's because the Almighty does care and He's trying to show us something. It's
Facts.
our fault if we don't recognize what it is that the Creator is trying to show us. And that's why we have to be more open to correction. That's why we have to be more open to those experiences that we go through, and recognize that there's a reason why you go through that. Try to understand what it is. What is that reason that the Creator is placed you through this? Sometimes it could ultimately just be because He wants you to help someone else, because you are strong enough to be able to deal with it. So this next person may not necessarily be as strong. So He may place you through a situation so that you can be a positive encouragement for the next person. I try to think of all kinds of ways that for the overview, but ultimately I don't think that or rather, when we consider that statement that the Almighty knows your heart, understand that the Almighty knows your heart better than you do. So you should be afraid to make that statement without knowing that there's consequences that come along with it.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
I'll be brief. I'm just gonna add, because you all killing it. I don't even need to go in like that, but it was some points that were made just now. My own, like I think that you had said the last thing you had said, one of the last things you had said is that sometimes you might get put through this situation to, because you might be stronger and you might need to it might be basically a message that you might have to bring out. And it's like, one of the things I want to add is, it goes back to when she brought out Jeremiah, Jeremiah. When she brought out Jeremiah, knowing your heart, it goes back to the law. It goes back to the Torah, everything, because even if you are someone that have a hard time, learning certain things, then within the Torah, it talks about the elders. It talks about the judges. You have people you can go to learn from. I think the Most High is bringing us back not only to the instructions of the Torah, but to community. Everything. Our failing point, I believe, is lack of righteous community. Knowing the heart. How do you feel about a statement, Almighty knows my heart? Well, how I feel about that statement is, yes, the Almighty do know your heart, and that's why He put people in place to help build your mind. Because the heart is synonymous with the mind. Help build your thoughts. Help put you in a place to where you can thrive in life. Put you in a place to where you not walking down the street eyeing another brother down and then mean mugging him. So showing you love of your brother, showing you love of your sister, showing you in Leviticus, I think 18, 18, Chief, when we're supposed to stand up when the elder comes in. Is it 18 or 19? Or 17? It's one of those three.
It's definitely not 18.
Not so it's somewhere between 17 and 19, if I'm not mistaken. But why am I saying that? Because now you're showing this respect to this elder. It's all these things is teaching us. So a lot of children that's sitting here, and no shot to the parents, because they might not know this, even though it's in our Torah. We're teaching our children to have a certain type of respect when elders walk in the room. We're teaching our children to how to have a certain respect when leaders are walking in the room. We're teaching same thing with Zachenaz, so elders dealing with women. So all of this is connecting to the mind, to the heart. You know, he knows it. So this is why all this stuff was told for us to do. It builds our character, and it puts us in a situation to where we won't have to say, oh, well, you know, most I know my heart. I'm talking to myself when I say this. I'm not just trying to teach nobody that's listening or tuning in right now. So with that, I yield. That's my portion of the knowing the Almighty knows my heart isn't an excuse for laziness. I'm on both sides. It can be an excuse, and it might not be depending on the circumstance. I agree as well, but I will push back a little bit with Chief Prince when I would say that, you know, yes, these they might be fighting, and I've seen it too firsthand and all that. But then you got to think, like, if the choice was not made to do it, you know what I'm saying? I know it's easier said than done, but sometimes it's not. The example I brought up with Aaron. We used to say that we'll say to Aaron, you know, some of us have children, and we'll be like, man, you just don't understand. You just don't got no child, or something like that. You know, then I sit down and I'll talk to him. He'll be like, you know, I hear y'all say stuff like that, right? And y'all say that to me like, you know, I don't understand. But I had the discipline not to do what y'all did.
Mm-hmm. Discipline.
I had the discipline to not do what y'all did to have the children, or to have whatever you're complaining about and saying that I don't understand because I'm not going through it. You put yourself through that, and I chose not to. So the pushback I was saying, I really pushed back, but the other side of the coin to the example with those that might be struggling through addiction and all that is the start of it. Then some people could say, well, you know, sometimes people don't just choose to do it. You know, life hits and they might bump into, I get all of that. But it's still an element sometimes, or most times I should say, it's a choice that we made. So I don't know if anybody
and I think no, and I think with people, I think there's a sometimes we got to make the distinction between people giving an explanation for what they do and then giving an excuse for what they're doing.
Yeah.
People sometimes we confuse the two. If your intention is not to do something, but you fall, we know about the righteous man. Righteous man falls many times.
Okay.
So we know that's right. You know, we know it happens. We know there's times where you stumble, whatever the case, and when that person, you know what I'm saying, dust themselves off and stand back up, and they say, hey, listen, this was a situation. What they're giving you is an explanation. Mm-hmm. The person who intends to continue to repeat what they're doing, like Guevara Sharon said, those individuals are not giving an explanation. They're giving excuses because they're setting up the platform to do a reoffense. They're to reoffend again by saying, oh, well, the Most High knows my heart. They're setting up the stage to do it again. So sometimes when you listen to people, you got to know whether they're giving an excuse or whether they're giving an explanation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And with that, those tuning in, make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, share, comment. We're going to go into the next song. Might be the last song. I might have a closing out song too. But next song, U3, Calling.
We the black people of America had enough, had enough. Living post to post rejected, yeah, our life is tough. We need some deliverance, not just beginner's luck. We need you, Yahuwah, yeah, please do not pass our calling on your name. Can you hear us? Don't leave us astray. We are your children, you're the only way. Please forgive us, cause living in a world without you ain't living in this world at all. Calling on your name, you are tired of these pearly games. Sick of the same reports over and over again. Our NUS, I remember disgrace, rejected, neglected, degraded, we're hated, incarcerated. Our only hope is in you. Desperately we call on you that we may be saved. Yahoo, Yahoo, Yahoo. We the black people of America had enough, had enough. Living post to post rejected, yeah, our life is tough. We need some deliverance, not just beginner's luck. We need you, Yahuwah, yeah, please do not pass our calling on your name. Can you hear us? Don't leave us astray. We are your children, you're the only way. Please forgive us, cause living in a world without you ain't living in this world at all. It's time to swallow our pride now. All I wanna do is cry now. Streets filled with blood, fear, and panic. The wages of the sin of this havoc. So-called black man, woman, and child, lift your voice and return to your vow. We're the chosen who have strayed away. The commandments are not done away. The black people of America had enough, had enough. Living post to post rejected, yeah, our life is tough. We need some deliverance, not just beginner's luck. We need you, Yahuwah, yeah, please do not pass our calling on your name. Can you hear us? Don't leave us astray. We are your children, you're the only way. Please forgive us, cause living in a world without you ain't living in this world at all.
Living in this world's a hassle. From the killing to the stealing to the store clothes. Fake vaccines, target black hospitals. Don't Google the answer for peace, cause only y'all knows. They pull out the chopper and spray. Expect us to think it's okay. They pacify us for a couple years. Placebos to replace the blood and tears. Keep us dumb enough to the point where we forget we the chosen children. That's why we going through this mess. This is just our sins catching up to us. We disobeyed the Abba and he's furious. We breaking the chains, no more slaves. Looking at the enemy getting more brave. But we getting it together, now we conscious. Calling on Yahuwah, we victorious.
Keep calling on your name. Can you hear us? Don't leave us astray. We are your children, you're the only way. Please forgive us. Calling on your name. Can you hear us? Don't leave us astray. We are your children, you're the only way. Please forgive us, cause living in a world without you ain't living in this world at all. Living in a world without you ain't living in this world at all.
Yeah. I was about to sing, but I ain't gonna do it.
Nice.
I was about to sing, but I ain't gonna do it to y'all. That's from you three. You know, two sisters, one brother. Track produced by the brother. I did not know that until recently. But the album is dope. You all make sure you all check it out. Look them up. On to the last topic. And we're going to go ahead and let our coach Sharon kick it off for us. And it goes, when can chastisement of your brother or sister become a waste of time? When can chastisement of your brother and sister become a waste of time? Is there a cutoff time when you should step back from giving correction?
Kane. Well, it becomes a waste of time when you see that, like we was talking about in our last topic, when you see that it's just a perpetual behavior that they display where they just not going to take heed, you know. But I do want to pinpoint the cutoff time. This particular question reminds me of the scripture in Leviticus 19, I think verse 7, when it talks about you shall rebuke your neighbor, you shall not in any wise suffer sin upon him. Um
I love the laws. Sorry.
okay. So it this that about the cutoff time, it reminds me of that. And the reason why I say I'm going to say it's an ongoing occasion as far as chastising your fellow brother or your fellow sister, because certain practices in Torah deems a cutoff period. It deems an ending period. For an example, this and this is this is my perspective. This is the way I see it. For an example, we have Deuteronomy 30:34. I've been studying, y'all. I've been getting
I
better with
see.
this getting this verse together.
I see.
It talks about
What
the
is it
morning
again? What
period.
chapter? What chapter?
Deuteronomy 34,
Uh-huh.
uh, verse 8. I think it talks about the morning period for Moshe for 30 days.
Mm.
I'm looking for your virtual Shabbat lesson.
Okay, I know, Mal. I got to get with you about that. Kane. Um, that's an example of it. A cutoff time. That's an ending period. Another example. Genesis 50. I forgot the verse. Genesis 50 talks about when Joseph observed 7 days of period of mourning for his Abba. Even though it was self-appointed, he appointed himself an ending period of when he mourned for his Abba. I can even use the example of Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Kratos Day we are currently observing. We have an ending period. We have a cutoff time of when we're supposed to eat unleavened bread. With this particular chapter, as far as cutting off your people or when the chastise, it kind of almost make me feel like it's going to be an ongoing occasion. It's going to be definitely an ongoing occasion. It takes me back to our topic last week when we talked about balancing your energies we give to other people before it causes mental, spiritual, and physical hindrance.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of that. However, with this ongoing occasion, I do have to say it gets tricky because it can make you fall into sin of Leviticus 19 verse 17,
Don't
where
hurt them.
it says, do not harbor any hatred against your brother.
Right.
Because it's like we get impatient when them niggas don't listen, you're like, So, Kane, that's pretty much my take on it.
Sis, what you just said, that last part, that's why community is important. What the Akai brought out about, how he used an example of like a family member or friends or whatever stepping in and going to his children. They had a deal, like having multiple people that can help give you that little breather, not snapping. Because I know what you're talking about. You be like,
Kane, and that's why I said it takes me back to. Yeah, it takes us back to about the last topic we had last week about you got to set some boundaries, or we got to learn how to balance these energies, because it can make you fall into sin if you repeatedly chastising or rebuking your neighbor out of love, your brother or your sister. It kind of do make you isolate yourself from that individual when you see that they do not take heed, when they just rebellious, just rebellious to the word, to the advice. But that's pretty much my take on it. I just pointed out those specific scriptures because the Most High makes himself very clear. He gives us scriptures where it can insinuate that it's an ongoing occasion that we must do, and then he gives you scriptures where it is a cutoff time, an ending period. Zehu.
Very good points.
Now you ended it with some fire, huh? I feel like your transition to the other platform you going on about to be what they say, what young folks lit.
And I've been trying to study, study more throughout the week and not just when we get on a call.
Okay, I love it, man. Keep doing it because that you brought some heat tonight. So that pass it to Chief Prince. What you got? What you got? You want me? You got the questions? Let me bring it back up.
Oh no, yeah, I got it right there on my notepad on the computer. So when can chastisement of your brother or sister become a waste of time? Is there a cutoff time when you should step back from giving correction? I think it has a lot to do with the intention of the person. This goes back to what we said in the first topic, as far as knowing your audience, understanding who you're dealing with. And here's an example. In the scripture, like when we hear the term sin, like, the person like, yo, he's a sinner. Okay, yeah, sin, breaking the law, whatever. But then you hear the terms wicked or wickedness. You're like, yeah, see, it's breaking the law. We tend to kind of like take these concepts and we mesh them together. But you realize that these two terms are not the same and cannot be treated the same.
Okay.
Leviticus chapter 4.
Low.
Oh,
we agree with you. We was like, yeah, okay.
No, I thought somebody was about to inject. I was about to let them flow. But so we know that the term for sin in Hebrew does not mean sin in that sense. It literally means to miss the target. Some people say miss the mark. Chata. That means that you're aiming at something. It's just like the archery in ancient times. You're aiming at something and you miss the bullseye. It doesn't mean that you are not a good archer. It just means that you missed the target. But what was the intent? The intent was to hit the target. This is the reason why in Leviticus chapter 4 all the way through 10, it talks about sin. It talks about deliberate sin, and then it talks about sin in ignorance.
Come on, bring it out, Chief Prince.
So you have a distinction that's going on in Leviticus, and this is just talking about just the Levitical law, but this carries on into the moral law as well, and that is that what is the intent of the person? Is the intent of the person to do good, but they're just continuing to miss the mark, then by all means, those are the individuals that you're supposed to chastise and critique on a regular basis, because you know their intent is to what? Is to improve. They're trying, but they're stumbling. Those are the people that you're supposed to be there every day, all day, making sure you help them up, because you know what their intention is. Their intention is to do right. But if you're dealing with people who don't care, and they like we've said all throughout the show, they're making it into a religious process. They're constantly doing it over and over and over, and not just doing it over and over, but how is their response to the initial critique? People who are sorry for what they do, who are repentant, the first thing that they do when they hear the critique is what? Cain, they immediately acknowledge that the situation is off. Like, Cain, man, I'm struggling with this. I'm struggling. But then you come across those people that as soon as you critique them, the first thing they say is what? You act like you perfect. Okay. Now we know what your issue is. So we know that those type of individuals, they don't care. It's not even about trying to be better. They are comfortable in what they're doing, but they're depending on your imperfection to justify their imperfection. These are so you have to watch. So when we hear people say these things, and whatever, we have to pay attention to what is their intent. How do they respond to your critique? Do they respond in the sense of, "Wow, you listen, man. I'm Ak, man. I'm struggling, man. you know, I'm trying, what kind of counsel can you give me, man? Because I'm struggling here." Those are the ones that you're like, no, I know what you're trying to do, and we're going to be here every day, day in and day out, to make sure that you continue to rise, because you know what their intent is. But those who Leviticus calls it, who sin with a high hand, who have the intent on doing what they want to do, regardless of anything, those are the ones where you do implement a cutoff period. In fact, what does the Most High say about people who sin with a high hand? They shall be cut off from the midst of their people.
Yeah, we don't need them influencing nobody else.
Because because you know what their intent is. But the person who's intent on doing better, but they're just struggling, those are the ones who the scriptures makes it clear that we're supposed to rebuke them and suffer not sin upon them. Make sure that there's never occasion for them to fall off. We're supposed to make sure that they don't fall. But the ones who sin with a high hand, those are the individuals where you're like, well, you know what? Well, we'll let the Most High catch up to you, because they're already telling you in so many words that, hey, listen, I'm doing me. And that's and as Buckwheat would say in Little Rascals, that's all I have to say about that.
What you got? What you got? No, Chief be coming with. Go ahead. What you got?
Yeah. Like the sis said in the chat, that is scary. When you think about that, man.
We definitely need more. She said we need more rebukings in our community.
We do, but we need more acceptance of the rebuke, even more in the community.
Say that again, please.
We need more acceptance of the rebuke in our communities.
Say it again, brother.
That's a lot of our problem.
Facts.
We can we're absolutely willing to give it, but when it comes down to receiving that rebuke, that's when we get a little scary.
And it goes back to community. If we don't have nothing established, like Beit Din or something like that, to what, then that's going to continue to happen. What you just said, people are going, oh, I don't care what you're saying.
Right. It does, man. Even like I referenced, earlier about, what some of the things that we try to implement within our community about, just like sharing some of that responsibility of like rebuking our children. So it came down to that. Like that was one of the initial things that we thought about. Like, hey, you can help me raise my child by explaining to them that I'm not just being an ass.
Right.
Like I really care about them, and that's the reason why I'm expressing to them this, this thing. And we found out that it was actually helpful, because we realized that our kids didn't want to listen to their parents, but they would accept it from somebody else that they cared about. An aunt, an uncle, a good family friend, even. Like sometimes we gotta stretch out to those areas to try to
community.
Yeah, we got to reach out to the community in order for us to get the empowerment that we need. But so, is there a cutoff time? I go through this often. I go through this often on the job and amongst the community. Because of some of the positions that I take on, for myself. And sometimes I have no idea, no clue on how to deal with it. Sometimes it ends up being a little bit, over your head, and you just got to try to make the best decision that you possibly can. I've found many times trying to have discussions with my brothers, you know, all of my brothers, you know, on different personal levels of just trying to get an understanding of where they are and trying to give them the encouragement to try to do what's better
Right.
or what's best. And, you know, and also trying to deal with my own issues and situations and hoping that they can give me the same encouragement that I can possibly give to them.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes like you need it more than what you can give it,
Facts.
That is a fact.
you know.
Especially
But
if you're the one giving it off the more than the other.
yeah, right,
Yeah, you
definitely,
need it. Shoot.
definitely. So um sometimes you do get to that point where you constantly saying the same thing over and over to an individual and they're not accepting what you initially gave them. So, like, what's the point? You feel like, what's the point in constantly saying the same thing over and over? Like, you start to feel insane. Like they say, what's the
Right.
definition of insanity? Like repeating the same thing over and over again, right?
That's right.
So you start to feel insane because you find yourself constantly telling the person the same thing, right? But you know, I had my Isha tell me this. I coach Sharon tell me this. I've had some of my brethren tell me this, and you know, even my kids. Like sometimes you just got to do it for the sake of the individual that you love and care about, in hopes that eventually they'll get it right.
Mm-hmm.
It is tiresome. I have brothers that I love dearly, and it makes me sick to my stomach when I see my phone ring, and you know, and they're calling me because I know it's some BS half the time, right? But what can you do? But because you assume that's the case, but oftentimes, or there might be a very you know, few times that it might not necessarily be that way, and all they're looking for is for some simple encouragement. So it's kind of hard to, you know, kind of balance yourself in between trying to be that person, to be that encouragement for those individuals that you keep trying to chastise or you keep trying to give that encouragement to, and then you just kind of like lose interest, lose focus, or you know, you're dealing with so much in your personal life that you don't have the energy or the strength to continue to do it. And I think that the Almighty does give us the strength. He gives us more strength that we understand that we actually have, and it could be a good or a bad thing. And I know there are many of us that pray for strength, and then when you realize that you have it, then you wish you didn't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yep.
So, yo, I know I'm one of those. You know, I used to pray all the time. Almighty, give me the strength to endure. Please give me the strength to endure.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you keep enduring, you like, most I don't want to endure no more.
Want them more? Yeah.
I just
Right.
want to break down and cry like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But
Facts.
Man.
but you know, we just got to keep being the best part of ourselves, and I think it'll be helpful for all of us within the community, and I think eventually over time it also ends up being a help to you.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna be what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read what this person just said. This is Isaiah. Shout out to the brother. Shout out to Hope you're doing well. And it says, I don't know if he had 1, 2, 3, but he just has number 4 right here. Sometimes, okay. So he says, listen to what they're not saying. While negative people might complain a great deal, they're saying a lot more than you think under the surface. Pay attention to how they feel, things they show between the lines. They might be joking as a coping mechanism, using dark humor to deal with how hurt they really are. They might be playful. They might playfully indulge in self appreciation. Am I saying that?
Deprecation.
Fabrication. Man, I gotta look that word up now. Isaiah, you would be the one to throw a big word in there since you got, the doctorate and stuff. I don't know if he got a doctorate. He up that though. But actually need reminders of their self-worth. If you feel up to it, noticing what negative people really need under the surface. Sometimes it's not what they're saying, but what they're not saying. Sound like something Chief Prince be saying. Like all those sayings. He said, not yet, bro.
Yeah, word up. That's definitely true.
Kane. So those just tuning in, make sure you subscribe. I'm gonna keep pounding it because some of y'all be listening, watching, and just once you're done, you just get off. You don't subscribe, you don't share. These topics could help. But I'm not going to say anything in addition to what has already been said. Beautiful things that have been said. I'm just going to end it with my song. It's an older song. This is a shameless plug. Older song. We got to change. It fits the topics. We got to change. So I don't know if I played this already. I probably did a long time ago. But the song was about 7 years ago. So hopefully y'all like it. And then we're gonna close out. Did y'all have anything to say before the song is played? Because once it's done, I'm just gonna go ahead and close it out.
Okay, real quick. Well, whatever that means. No, another thing about that, I wanted to say this earlier about the term rebuke. That I think people have a problem with rebuke because of what the term means and what it has come to be understood as. When you say rebuke, what does that term actually mean? And I was thinking about this earlier, and I actually pulled up my my dictionary of etymology. The word originally, I don't know, now it means something a little bit different, but the word has always meant to shame or disgrace someone. From the 15th century Middle German, I believe. To reprove, to direct reprimand, to shame and disgrace a person. Also, to insult, to set back, to defeat. So we hear this term rebuke. This is the term. This is how So when you say, "Yeah, I got to rebuke that brother," that doesn't sound positive. It sounds like, okay, he about to go in on me. He about to whatever. And so people may feel some kind of way when they hear that term. But then the Hebrew term that term rebuke is translated from doesn't give the same sense.
Come on now, bring it out.
That's right.
That's right.
But what I'm saying. But the word the word yakak, I'm saying, this right out of Isaiah 1:18. This is the same word that says, "Come now and let us reason together." The same word that they translate as rebuke, it means in Hebrew, it means to reason, to discuss, to have discourse. So from a Hebraic standpoint, there's absolutely nothing wrong with rebuke. So we got to get out of the habit of maybe even cast away the word rebuke altogether. You know what I'm saying? But if we're going to use it, right? But if we're going to use it, we have to come from the standpoint of we got to stop making it think like we got to get out on a street corner and say, "Let me tell you something, brother. Deuteronomy 28." Like no. That's not rebuke from a Hebraic standpoint.
Positive chastisement or positive encouragement.
Absolutely, because that's what the Most High in Isaiah 1:18. We know that scripture. That's Israelite 101. Come now and let us reason together. So are we going to be rebuking the Most High? No, that's not what the meaning is. Let us reason. Let us have a discourse. Let's use intelligence in this. And I think that if we begin to approach rebuke from a Hebraic standpoint and not using these archaic English terms that clearly doesn't sound good at all, whatever like that. Yeah, I got to rebuke you, brother. Nah, let's reason together. A person may be more likely to incline their ear.
Maybe. Hallelujah. All right. For those that's tuning in, make sure you subscribe, like, share, comment, and we're going to close out. with a song. And it goes a little something like this. But before I play it, Yabrechem, Yahweh, Wayish, Barechem. May the Most High bless you all and guard you all or keep you all. Shalom, shalom.
שיקום אלוהי לבנות רופא שמתלמידו. שלום לחולים.
Y'all can tell it's old because my Hebrew is wrong.
A lot of us believe we care so much, and that we're putting 100% in us. Yeah. There comes the taking for granted. You don't see it, but what you see in your perception is leaning. It won't stand, cause the fighter comes before us. We got to change. We got to change. We got to change. We got to change. The arguing back and forth is not problem changing. Counterproductive. This discussion is discussing, yeah. What happened to the vision of us building? Focus, yeah. Don't you dare hold that. Not beating in the house, not being what we're about. Come on, let's hear we know. Let's go and walk it out. Cause I just wanna grow. Together there's a goal. Got to change. We got to change. We got to change. We got to change. Let's change. The only way we'll grow is change. Let's change.
We gotta change. My bad, I ain't faded out, nothing like that. But we gotta change, y'all. Shalom, shalom. Lehitrot.